to order. Christina, can you take roll, please?
Yes. Mayor Jake Simpson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sanait Nuguse.
Present.
Council members Peter Kwan,
I'm here. Thanks.
Mohammed Igal,
Here.
Idris Guzman,
Present.
and Aaron Sitterly.
Here.
Councilmember Takela Gobina is absent.
Okay, thank you. We will now say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being conducted virtually and live streamed on CTV Government Access Comcast Channel 21 and the city's website. The public may also listen to the meeting by calling 206-973-4555. The City Council is providing public comment opportunities to commenters who signed up or provided written comments prior to 2 p.m. today. Today, it doesn't look like we have any oral comment, but Christina, how about the written?
Yes, we received one from Michael Kovacs regarding Seattle Councilmember Sawant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kovacs. We'll now move into the presentation section, and our first presentation will be about our geographic information systems by GIS coordinator Anna Yost.
Now I'm unmuted. Good evening. Bear with me as I share my screen. And so I apologize, as I start my presentation, I will not be able to see your faces. So please speak out if you have a question while I'm going. And please feel free to stop and ask me questions. Good evening, I'm Anna Yost. I am the GIS coordinator at the City of SeaTac. Thank you for allowing me the time to share with you all about the GIS program at the city. What is GIS? GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. GIS is a system for gathering and managing spatial information so it can be displayed and analyzed to support decision-making. It includes hardware, software, data, people, and processes. The purpose of this presentation is to provide a brief orientation to the GIS applications available to the public and how GIS supports city operations. Why is this issue important? Spatial data is useful for understanding the landscape of our city. SeaTac GIS provides data and maps to communicate information about public facilities and resources in our community. And GIS data and solutions support city operations. The GIS resources can be located from the City of SeaTac homepage by clicking on the R City and then on the Maps in GIS. The Maps in GIS homepage has a description of what GIS is and then links to the various types of GIS resources. We have interactive maps, printable maps, and the Data Hub. I will show each of these in this overview. I'll start with the interactive maps. On this page, there are currently 6 map applications available: Project Activity, Central SeaTac Story Map, Stormwater Infrastructure, General Information, Emergency Preparedness, Zoning and Planning. To open a web map application, put the cursor over one of the tiles and then click on the View App button. We will start with the Project Activity app. The Project Activity web application was created to show the location of current and planned projects, both capital improvement projects and permitted projects. It also shows any full road closures and detours. You can click on projects for more information. The format of the web map application are all the same, with the title on the top left corner, an about box on the right side, and 3 detail buttons in the upper right corner: the legend, the layer list, and the about button. So this is the live project activity map. All of the web map applications function the same. You can zoom in and out. You can see details of projects, or you can search for an address. And it will zoom to that location. Another useful map application is the emergency preparedness map, which is useful for communicating information on the location of fire stations, police stations, and medical facilities in the area. It also shows the roads that are a priority for plowing or possible closure during a snow event. The layout and function of the application is the same, but the focus of this application is data that can be useful for emergency preparedness. And we have details, for example, for fire stations, if there's phone numbers or websites about them. Also, on all the map applications, you can change the base map. And you can make a more simplified base map, or there's a couple different options, or the imagery is also available there as well. In the Maps and GIS page, there's also a link to printable maps. These maps have been available on our website for a number of years to communicate information about zoning, comprehensive plan, sewer and water districts, and the snow plowing and closure priority. This information is all available in the interactive maps as well now. There are additional maps for projects or specific topics like the pavement overlay maps and wetlands and streams. These PDF maps are not requested as frequently by staff since we started providing the interactive maps, but the static PDFs are updated as needed. There's also a link on the Maps and GIS page for the Data Hub. This is where we have commonly requested data sets available for download: stormwater, zoning, and comprehensive plan. You can search for a data set, view it in a simple web map, and then download the data if needed. This can be downloaded as a spreadsheet, a KML, or a shapefile. Other agencies can also stream data directly from the Data Hub. By making the commonly requested data available, we're providing the public quicker access to the information they need and reducing staff time needed to process requests. In 2019, we worked with the City of SeaTac Parks, Community Programs, and Services staff to develop a series of map applications to highlight the park's facilities and amenities. These can be accessed by clicking on the Parks and Recreation icon on the city website, and then on the Parks and Facilities section in the table of contents on the left side of the screen. These web map applications for the parks and facilities are a different format than the previous interactive maps. These applications are called story maps, and they combine maps with interactive data, pictures, and additional links. Our first park story map was developed as part of the UW GIS student project and in collaboration with GIS staff and park staff. There are currently 9 parks and facilities story maps, and they are maintained and updated by park staff. All of the parks and facilities story maps have the same format. When you click on the View App button, the application displays with picture tiles of amenities on the left side of the screen, and a map of the park or facility displays on the right side of the screen. So this is the Parks and Facilities page, and then if I click on the Valley Ridge, you can highlight over one of the tile amenities, and it labels it on the map so you can see where it is, or you can click on one of the numbers and the information pops up on the left side. You can also zoom in on the map, and that zoom extent filters the amenities you see on the left side. In 2021, SeaTac GIS worked with staff in CED Planning and Public Works Engineering to develop a central SeaTac story map, which is available from our City tab, Projects and Studies page. This story map leverages GIS technology to show a variety of city projects that are co-occurring in the central SeaTac area, highlighting the location of projects in related areas, and telling the story of the project activities using summaries, links, and pictures, and providing contact details for more information. The Central CTAC Story Map was a great opportunity to leverage our GIS technology to communicate city activities to the public and is an insight into some of the capabilities of our enterprise system. So on the story map, on the Central CTAC Story Map app, you can scroll down as the text to see the additional story of what's being told. And as you scroll, the map zooms and pans to show predetermined bookmarks and data. One of our goals in GIS is to communicate relevant and useful information to the public, and we can see how often this information is accessed. There is a built-in counter on our web maps, which tracks the number of views of public-facing maps. This includes the Interactive Maps Data Hub and the various story maps, and we can see patterns of usage over time. There is a yearly pattern of increased usage in the summer, which appears to be driven by increased usage of the park story maps. It is really great that we can provide these user-friendly resources for park and facility information to our residents and viewers. We can also see the viewer counts for individual web viewers, with the CTAC Data Hub having the consistently highest usage. This is another example of how GIS solutions can create efficiencies. We can leverage the interactive maps to share useful information with the public. In addition to using GIS data to communicate information to the public, the City of SeaTac GIS program supports a variety of city operations. We have implemented an enterprise GIS data system where we develop and maintain standardized data sets of the infrastructure and environment, which provides a common operating picture for city staff. Through our internal GIS web portal, staff use interactive web maps to view the production data sets and explore data relevant to their work. This screen capture is an example of how we diagram data sets prior to building them to ensure we are including all the relevant information, verifying definitions and data formats, and determining how the data sets relate to each other. The City of SeaTac GIS has developed data and map templates for contractors to use and standards for them to follow to reduce costs and promote efficiency and consistency. These standards include discussions with contractors to ensure duplicate data is not being created or collected on a project. By eliminating the redundant collection or development of data or other GIS products, we can reduce the level of effort and cost on a project and promote more efficient use of public funds. The GIS data is also available for asset management software like CityWorks, where staff can create work orders and inspections tied to assets in the GIS inventory. This electronic work management process allows for significant increases in efficiency, accuracy, and insights. The screen capture shows a portion of the Stormwater Catch Basin Inspection Program dashboard, showing the stormwater network and the dark blue circles indicating recently completed catch basin inspections. Note that the detailed base map of North SeaTac Park originates from our SeaTac landscape data set that we update. GIS staff develop spatial analysis processes to support project needs, such as calculating the total impervious surface area for each parcel, or analyzing land use and development constraints to meet goals of the Growth Management Act. If an analysis will be needed on a regular basis, we turn it into a GIS model. This screen capture shows the impervious surface analysis model built by SeaTac GIS to summarize the total impervious surface by parcel for the annual stormwater impact fees. We also leverage our enterprise spatial data and solutions to support emergency management operations through data and maps for preparedness planning and with data maps and tools to support emergency response. This screen capture shows the hazard mitigation map that GIS developed for the Emergency Management Program Manager for preparedness planning meetings with the public. The map shows some environmental hazards such as streams, wetlands, liquefaction areas, and steep slopes, which are important for situational awareness. We're excited about the GIS and web mapping tools we have developed for the City of SeaTac and appreciate the opportunity to give you an overview of these resources. We think these mapping tools are a great way to communicate information to the public about the facilities and resources in the city, and we enjoy leveraging these tools to create efficiencies and support city operations. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Anna. Councilmember Kwan, do you have questions?
Yeah, thanks. So earlier you mentioned that some of the data and the map info and functionality is developed in collaboration with the University of Washington. I'm curious how frequently the maps themselves are updated.
That was the project with the UW students was just a pilot project, just for them to develop kind of the concept, and then we implemented it and updated on our end.
I see. So as far as the details on all of the various maps, like the, let's see, pavement overlay map and development pipeline map and all of the printable stuff, how frequently are those maps updated?
As requested. All of the maps have a date in the bottom left corner indicating when they were last created. And so we aren't often updating the printable maps, just as staff request them. We'll make those updates.
Okay, so usually on an as-needed basis. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. It looks like you've been pretty busy. There's a lot more maps than the last time I checked. So cool, good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Eagle.
No question at this time. Thanks.
Councilmember Guzman.
No questions, but the maps do look very interactive, and I had an opportunity when I looked at the agenda to kind of play around with them, and it was fun. So thank you for your hard work on that, because just looking at the actual like back end of it, it looks like there's just so much like stringing it together, and then you put it together in a way that's more accessible. So thank you.
Thank you for your feedback.
Councilmember Sitterly.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, no questions, but thank you very much for putting these up. I know that we, in our house, actually use the maps quite a bit. So I don't know if we're just geeks or there's probably a little bit of that going on. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Guse.
Thanks. Thank you, Anna. My only question is around just in terms of accessibility and accessing the maps. Are there intentions to add additional features to make the maps more accessible for folks with varying abilities?
Sorry, that's one of our projects for this year, is to review the accessibility of the maps and work on that. So we've got a number of things that we're going to look into, and there's some opportunities in the software that should be able to help us, and then there's some practices that we need to implement to make things more accessible.
Thank you. No, it looks great overall, and yeah, just always real fun adding additional features and layers to the maps and just playing around with all that exists. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Anna, this is really incredible stuff. I got to play around with it. I've played around with it a few times, but how do the projects, like consultants and managers, how are they able to, you said it was like it streamlined it, they would build maps that would fit into this system, right? So how does that interaction work? I mean, it's not like everyone can update these maps. Like, it doesn't seem like everyone would have the technology to be able to do that. Can you explain that a little more?
Yes. So what we have done in the past that seems to work the best is we have consultants, if they're going to do a web map application, to develop a pilot on their system, and then we implement it on our infrastructure. Because there's so many details in the configuration that it doesn't really work well to port it over. And so that's the way we've approached that.
Very cool. Well, really appreciate all your work in this presentation. Are there any other questions or comments for Anna? No? Okay, well, thank you again.
Thank you for your time.
All right, well, we will move into key city issues and requests for direction by our city manager, Carl Cole.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. It's cold out tonight. Just a reminder that the community center is open up regular hours for anybody that wants to go get warmed. We were also notified today by the King County Library System. I think the council got the email that they serve as warming shelters as well during their business hours. I was going to try to give some information on that, but it turns out there's a lot more libraries than I thought there were. So you're going to have to look online to find which hours work for which library and whatnot. So with that, I did want to let you know about $750,000 Complete Streets grant that we have applied for. This is from the TIB, the Transportation Improvement Board. Again, just letting you know, we've applied for the grant. If we are successful in receiving it, we'll come to council for acceptance approval, but letting you know that it's in the works. We also applied for a $1.6 million and some change grant from Washington State Department of Transportation for the City Safety Program. This will help us improve 6 different pedestrian crossings in the city, and all including improvements in lighting and getting us up to ADA standard and putting in C curbing that keeps cars and people apart as much as possible. So again, just making you aware. I do want to mention that on the consent agenda tonight is the grant acceptance form for the King County Conservation Futures Grant, which allows us to, I believe this makes us even, and this pays for the last portion of the expansion of the Des Moines Creek Park. The King County Conservation Futures Group has been involved in this. We phased this purchase over the last 3 years, I believe, and this is the last installment, and will give us ownership of that new added piece of property, and then we'll start design and trying to figure out how to maximize use for it. Next thing, I have a bunch of referrals tonight, requests. We have a CRF from Mayor Simpson wants to talk about tree canopy and that sort of thing in the city. It's a very detailed CRF. You've all seen it. Staff has reviewed it, and it does meet the qualifications of a significant major item, and so seems like the likely place to discuss it is Parks and Rec. So without any objection, I'd like to get that referred to Parks and Rec. Got it. The next item, Councilmember Gomita has submitted a CRF regarding compensation of some of our employees at the lower end of the pay scale. Again, a fairly detailed response will be required for that, and will take some significant time. So we'd like to get that referred to A&F without objection. Okay, good. Moving on with the City Center Phase 2 project. CED would like to do a presentation on that and brief the council on the progress of that project. And so would like to have that referred to a council study session. No objection. Like to refer, so we have been in conversation with the Kent School District since the beginning of school, and the issues that have been created by students walking to the new elementary school down a Military Road. And it seems like the solution will be a full curb gutter sidewalk build out. And so we'd like to enter into an interlocal agreement with Kent School District on that project. There will be some right-of-way needs in order to accomplish it. And so we'd like to get that referred to Team PW so we can move that along. No objections. Computer's being slow on this one. I can see what it is. I can't see. Oh, he'd like to refer to A&F. This is the next steps in the facilities assessments and analysis. Mike Fitzpatrick out of Parks would like to have that referred to A&F. We have talked about it before, and the committee supported this proposal and requested that future updates and budget adjustments be brought forward to council. And so that process will require. Yes.
I believe that one is supposed to be going to the next study session. It was, yeah. That's the facilities assessment.
Yeah, it's a lot of words on this one. Huh?
Yeah, I believe that one's supposed to go to the next study session.
Oh, to study session. You're right. Yep, you're absolutely correct. So all those words again, but again, I'd like to have it referred to council study session to review progress on that. Thank you. I did want to let the council know I submitted a letter on behalf of the city of SeaTac to King County. There was a motion a week or so ago in the county council to prioritize the best starts for kids levy money to projects outside of only in unincorporated King County. That levy is assessed on every property owner in King County, and I and a number of other cities thought that should be rethought, and so submitted a letter to support that, and that motion did not pass, or there were some amendments made so that the prioritization will go to areas with the most need, regardless of where that area happens to be, whether it's unincorporated or an incorporated city. The next thing is I'll be sending out a link later, or you can find it on the website. We have when I say we, Finance and Gwen and her team have put our budget book online and in a digital format on ClearGov. It gives you a lot of ability to examine the budget in areas that are interesting to you. You can actually create your own budget book, and by pulling things aside and setting up your own budget book on the things you're interested in. For instance, if you're a committee that's responsible for just roads projects and you want to have a quick access to that, you can create your own budget book with shortcuts to the budget components that are interesting to you. And it's not limited to that. You can do it for anyone. It's very easy to use. It's so much nicer to be able to look at things in a aggregated fashion rather than our budget, which is line after line after line after line, which is how we have to do the budget. But a lot of times you can like have all the papers, pencils, and copiers combined into one line. And so that's what this does for you. And I just wanted to let you know and let the public know it's available online now, and it's available to the public. But I anticipate I'm going to make my own budget book as well, because I have certain things that I'm interested in at certain times, and I don't want to have to page through the entire several hundred page budget to get to it. So just want to let you know that was available. Lastly is the calendar. We have PED on Thursday. The Planning Commission is canceled for next Monday. Then we have Parks and Rec and the TMPW the following Thursday on March the 3rd. And then we have council study session and regular meeting on the 8th. So I think I covered everything. Yeah, with that, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Cole?
Yep.
Did you have one for the
yep. I knew it was a long list. I told you. Yes, we had a job audit done on a position in HR, and that position it did not. The task that job did not match with its current classification, and so it needs to be reclassified. It is not a financial issue, but those by council policy are required to go to A&F. So, if no objection, we'll have that talk about that at A&F. And before I go on, Christina, did I miss anything else?
I think you got it.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Cole, Councilmember Kwan?
Yeah, quick question about the recent cold weather and snow. So I did notice the snow was not sticking to the ground. So obviously we did not have to have the plows out, but wondering if our de-icing trucks were out, and will they continue to be out? I think it's going to be even colder tonight, or it's just as cold.
I don't know the answer to that question. I assume they will be, but I see that nobody from Public Works is on the call, so I'll find out and I'll let you know in email.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
Councilmember Egal?
I understand that there was accident this morning in the 194 on Military Road. There was one of SeaTac police officer involved, and I assume he or she has been injured in that accident. Do you have any update call about that?
Yes, yeah. Officer Bartolo is home, resting comfortably with a very large contusion on his knee. So,
beautiful.
Yeah, it looks worse than it is, but with all the airbags and all the safety features in the vehicles these days, he ended up in a cocoon of airbags and did bang his knee up pretty good, but he's going to be just fine.
Chris and Bats, my best wishes, and get well, and we are praying for him, calling for him.
Thank you. Will do.
Thanks.
Councilmember Guzman.
I do have a question about the funding for the Best Starts for Kids. So due to that amendment, that basically means that we are eligible to apply. Is that correct?
We don't apply, but projects can be executed in our jurisdiction.
Okay.
But
And
we're not
so-
eligible to apply.
Oh, I see. So the city of SeaTac is not eligible to apply?
Not the city. Nonprofits within the city can apply and bring the money into the city, but not the city.
Got it. Okay. That's interesting. Thank you.
Councilmember Sitterly.
No questions, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Neguse.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing from me. Thank you very much, Carl.
Thank you.
Moving right along, we have committee updates for items not included on the agenda and review of proposed council requests. We'll start with Transportation and Public Works. Councilmember Kwan.
Okay, thank you. So the Transportation and Public Works Committee met on February 17th. That was last Thursday. And there were two items on the agenda. One is something that the residents brought up as a concern, is the lack of sidewalks along the brand new River Ridge Elementary School that's at the south end of Military. The school is actually in the city of SeaTac. However, it is part of the Kent School District. And so a majority, almost all of the students there that attend are actually from the Kent area at the south end. So initially when this school was designed and developed and all of that stuff, the idea was from the Kent School District that all students will be bused in, so there will be no kids walking, which did not require sidewalks. However, that turned out not to be the case. So there are kids walking because there are a bunch of houses and apartments and whatnot at the south end. So they're walking along Military, which is dangerous, as we know, because it's a very busy street and there are no sidewalks in that area. So the city is working together with the Kent School District on a sidewalk project to bring in sidewalks at that area on the east side of Military, so that the students will have a part of the Safe Route to School program, a safe way to walk to and from school. And the questions that were brought up, some of the questions that were brought up by the committee was regarding the property to the north. So the sidewalk is going to go from the school to the south boundary of the city. And the question was, well, why aren't the sidewalks going to be extended to the north part of the city? The preliminary answer we got back was because, according to the Kent School District, there are no students attending from the north side of the school, so they do not need the sidewalk on the north side. However, we did have a resident chime in at the following meeting, which was with the Planning Commission, that there were actually some students attending from the north side. So staff is going to revisit this with the Kent School District and find out exactly, how many students there are, or if students can even attend from the north side of the school. And if there are, then this will have to be revisited. But the sidewalks are coming. It has a very aggressive schedule. So the plan is to get the sidewalks done before the start of the next school year. So potentially around, I think, August, September of this year, they should have brand new sidewalks. That's good news. And the Kent School District is going to be funding this project as well. So that's also double good news. The other item that we discussed was regarding the right-of-way purchases. So this was just for general information only, and I encourage you to download the TMPW committee meeting packet for the 17th, which is available online, that presents this a lot better. But it basically, we discussed how and when the city uses eminent domain to obtain portions, usually the street side facing portions of private property, in order to build sidewalks when necessary. If it's not necessary, it doesn't happen. But sometimes it's required because of the right-of-way that exists. Otherwise, the sidewalk can't be built straight. So some of the questions that were raised was, well, how did these private property lines not end up consistent? If you look at the King County property map, you can actually see, if you follow along the street, especially the streets that do not have sidewalks, the private property sometimes cuts out, an additional 10 feet into the street, and some private properties go in back about 5 or 10 feet, sometimes 15 feet away from the street. So how did they all end up uneven? And the answer was the city inherited this. It was like that before the city incorporated, and prior, way back in the day when parcels were created, I guess at different points throughout history, depending on when they were created. The thought was, okay, the streets are only going to be this wide, and so they created the property line there. And then later on, they decided, well, the streets are going to be a little bit wider, so they created the property line a little bit further back. So we ended up with what we have today, where the private property line is inconsistent at the public street right away. So we talked about that and the process and how that all occurs. This was, again, informational only. And that is it for TMPW. I do have an update for the skateboard committee, which is the South King County Area Transportation Board. That is a committee made up of the South King County area cities, and we meet monthly to discuss transportation-related issues. So at this particular meeting, which was on Tuesday, February 15th, there were a couple of discussions. So the first discussion was regarding King County pursuing a scooter pilot program. So what this is King County is working with various private entities, I believe Lime is probably one of them, to provide scooters for everybody around, especially transportation hubs and whatnot. So it's a pilot program, and they were very excited to have this program roll out throughout all of King County. However, I raised the concern that CTAC has dealt with, I believe this was 5 years ago or so, when Lime actually extended their scooter and bicycle program, and we ended up, and it's great. I actually love this program because when I go traveling, I make use of the scooters and bicycles myself. So the problem we ended up with in CTAC was as Lime expanded their program to cities outside of Seattle, we ended up with Lime bikes and scooters and whatnot all throughout CTAC without any kind of way to contact Lime when there were problems, blocking driveways or handicapped ADA access points or fire hydrants or bus stops or whatnot. That was one problem. The other problem was we had no way of dealing with any potential liabilities. So Lime actually has, and all of these scooter and bicycle ride-sharing companies have a contract with the city of Seattle where they have to provide things like insurance in case there's some kind of a mishap. They have to provide a 24/7 customer support hotline for the city. They have to provide a in-person customer service location, like a physical office where anyone can come in. They have to track all of the data on how many people ride from where to where during what times and things like that. And that really helped with transportation planning, because if we know, for example, that a lot of people ride from this location to this location at 9 a.m. and then from that location to this other location at 5 or 6 p.m., then we know that we need to improve the transportation infrastructure between those two areas, right? And so that type of information is available as part of this contract. But because they did not have a contract with CTAC, we did not get that information. And when we tried to work with the company, they basically stopped talking to us. So, and at the end of the day, at the end of the discussion, what happened was Lime actually blacked out the city of SeaTac. So if you pull up the app now and you try to look at SeaTac and get something, you can't. So it was a very, I guess, not so positive experience that we had with them. And so I brought this concern up with King County, and I said, look, if you're going to roll this out through all of King County, we need to make sure that we get the same kind of agreement with liability insurance and ridership tracking and data accessibility, all that stuff. And they agreed, so they were going to look into that. But I think this is something that we really have to keep an eye on moving forward, because we don't want to be, we don't want to end up having the same kind of issues that we had in the past with no way to resolve them. Okay, so the other thing that was presented at Skateboard was the Regional Transportation Plan. This was presented by the Director of Transportation Planning at Puget Sound Regional Council. And there are various documents about this, on this, all over, not just Skateboard, but also at the PSRC website. It's a lot of information, and I encourage everybody to take a look at this as well. So that was discussed in Skateboard. Oh, and every year in Skateboard, we vote for a Skateboard chair and vice chair. And this year I was nominated and voted in as the chair of Skateboard. So for 2022, I'm going to be the chair of Skateboard. So some good news there. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Way to go. Thank you very much, Councilmember Kwan. Councilmember Deguste, in Councilmember Gobena's absence, will you give us an ANF update?
Sure thing. Yeah, so the Administrative and Finance Committee met on February 10th. There were 2 requests for Council City Manager travel approval. So we reviewed 2 items. So one was for pre-approval for City Manager Carl Cole to attend the ICMA West Coast Regional Conference, and the other was for pre-approval for Councilmember Kwan to attend the NLC Congress of Cities Conference, and both of those items were recommended for approval. We also received a presentation on a proposed interlocal agreement with the City of Tukwila for on-call building and electrical inspection services. This item was recommended for approval by the committee as well. It will show up on at a future regular council meeting. And as always, we reviewed the quarter 4 2021 and January 2021 investment reports and compliance review. We also reviewed 2 additional items, but they are on today's consent agenda and or action item. So one of those was on the network infrastructure replacement to replace the city's current voice data network equipment. This item's on the consent agenda and was recommended for approval by the committee members. And then we also discussed the multifamily tax exemption agreement amendment between the city and Mayor Court, which is the only item under today's action items. And that was pretty much it for administrative and finance. Would you like me to go into public safety and justice or hold?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so we also met on February 10th for public safety and justice. And we had a really great meeting. So we discussed safety concerns at Angle Lake stemming from a number of incidents, but specifically the drowning that happened last August. After this incident, a CRF was submitted and the city contacted Clear Risk to request a safety assessment of Angle Lake. There were a number of suggestions that were submitted to the council from the assessment that was conducted, including competitive pay for lifeguards, increased signage at the lake in SeaTac's top languages, warning of the dangers or potential dangers, and the purchase of a borrow and return life jacket loaner station. Following these suggestions, the city explored all the options, and so and since then has also taken a number of actions, including providing new signage at the lake in our top languages. The city also removed the lifeguard chairs. And that was because it could imply that we had lifeguards on site, and so to to remove that implication. We also increased pay for lifeguard positions, and the city has already begun recruiting and promoting for those open positions. If you follow our social media pages, it's been blasted everywhere. And lastly, the life jacket loaner station is being explored in partnership with the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority. And I believe our goal is to have that up and running by May, June of this year. And Carl, please correct me if that is not correct, but I believe it was May 2022 was our goal following that meeting. Okay. We also, yep. Okay, thank you. We received a presentation from Captain Smithmeyer, excuse me, and he shared about a new training simulator that uses virtual reality technology. These scenarios are based on real life incidents to test critical thinking, weapon skills under pressure, de-escalation, implicit bias, and a number of situations that our officers encounter on a daily basis. This is really exciting. They said there were over 1 million different scenarios. And so funding will be available in March to purchase these 2 sets of training equipment. There will be more information forthcoming. Chief Matson also provided us with an update on the parking permit program. Enforcement began back in January 22. Since then, there have been at least 23 violations. Also, the city and the police are in the preliminary stages of a pilot program for mental health professional to respond in applicable situations. This position would be in place of the second vacant CSO position. And lastly, there was an update on safety at Safeway, located on Military and 164th. They have made some upgrades and improvements to alleviate a lot of the reoccurring issues that happen there. But of course, it's still a work in progress. And our next meeting will be held on March 10th at 6 p.m. All are welcome to attend. It is a public meeting and it will be in a virtual setting. And folks can submit public comment in advance, as always. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Neguse. We will move into the consent agenda. And Christina, I know you need to read a portion of this.
Yes, we have one item that was reviewed at the February 10th ANF meeting and recommended for placement on the consent agenda. It's Agenda Bill number 5891, a motion authorizing the city manager to approve the purchase of network hardware.
Okay, thank you. Does any council member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda to discuss under unfinished business? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So move, Peter Kwan.
And a second. Thank you. Council, please unmute your mics while I read the motion on the table. A motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item. Agenda Bill 5873, a resolution approving an amendment to the multifamily tax exemption agreement with Mayor Court LLC for the development of the Mayor Court apartments. This presentation will be by Planning Manager Jen Kester and Senior Planner Dennis Hartwick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Dennis is not with us tonight. He is out on leave, and so I will be handling this for you. I have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not sure if I saw that it flashed that I am the presenter. I'll ask Christina if I can.
You
present.
should have the rights to present.
There, thank you for that. Appreciate your patience, everyone. All right. Thank you, everybody. As I move around my mouse, today we are talking about the amendment to the multifamily tax exemption contract agreement with the Mayor Court Apartments. And this is just an image of the view of what will be built along Military Road just north of the construction that you see now, which is the Adara and Polaris project. So we're here today because the applicant is seeking an amendment to the previously agreed upon exemption for multifamily tax credit, and we do need the council's approval on that. The council approved the original agreement in May of 2020. The project was revised by the applicant due to COVID impacts that both affected the financing of what type of apartment construction can happen, as well as impacts that related to the schedule. And so because the agreement itself lists the specific provisions and the specific details of the project, the agreement needs to be amended. And if this agreement is not amended, the project is no longer eligible for a multifamily tax exemptions. So we are recommending approval tonight of this resolution that will authorize the execution of an amended agreement. The A&F committee, as expressed by Deputy Mayor Nubise, did recommend approval at the last A&F meeting earlier this month. This project's gone through several review dates. Some listed here are staff administrative reviews. Again, the council reviewed it in May of 2020, and the project itself received its administrative approval at the end of last year by staff. So what were the project changes? The existing tax exemption speaks of a 6-story mixed-use building with 47 parking spaces that are in structured parking, so under the building, with about 10,000 square feet of commercial space, 105 residential units, and then there was also 2 six-plex apartments with surface parking up to 85 surrounding it, a little bit behind, well, not a little bit, behind the larger building and to the west of Military Road. The exemption that was being requested at the time was an 8-year tax exemption, which has no income affordability limits or requirements to it. This proposed multifamily tax exemption is still for a mixed-use building, or mixed-use development, but in this case, there are 4 buildings, 3 to 4 stories in height, slightly smaller, both in number of residential units and the size of the commercial space. And then there are 112 parking stalls that are a mix of surface parking and then under building or tuck under parking, so not fully structured. And this exemption that's being amended is still for 8 years, or the request is for 8 years, which means that there is no income limit and it's 100% market rate. So in the case of amendments to tax agreements, the City Council is the approving body. There is no specific amendment criteria for doing that amendment. So the criteria that you have in front of you and what's shown on the screen is the original agreement criteria. So what staff uses when the original agreement gets approved. So and these are provisions from the municipal code. So they need to have at least 20 units of multifamily residential construction. And so in this case, they do. They're over 20. The project has to conform with the municipal code and the provisions in the municipal code for the land use development, size, setbacks, landscaping. And in this case, they do. That was part of this preliminary site plan approval that staff granted in December of last year. And then there's the eligibility requirements in our multifamily tax code. So that's related to if there were any income limitations, that they are meeting that. In this case, they don't. There's some other requirements related to making sure they're property owners in the city. And in this case, they do. And then the final criteria for approval is if they're in our urban center. So the urban center is a defined area along International Boulevard where our comprehensive plan is looking for a higher density development, and that's considered the residential target area in our code for where we want to see these additional multifamily be built, and so we're granting the exemption. So in staff's review of these criteria, we believe that does comply, and so we are recommending to City Council that because the criteria is met, that you could move forward in approving this amendment as well. So what are we looking forward to for you tonight from you is we're asking for you to pass the agenda bill to approve the resolution so we can enter into this amended agreement for tax exemption. If the council decides that they do not want to pass this resolution, then we're asking the council to direct staff to establish written findings that reflect your basis for not approving the agreement. And with that, I am happy to take any questions after you go through your council process.
Okay, Councilmember Guzman, would you like to make a motion to pass Agenda Bill 5873?
Yes, I motion that to pass.
Is there a second?
I'll second Peter Kwan.
Okay. We will now move into discussion. Councilmember Guzman.
I guess my questions, and I think it may have already been answered though. So they decided to change the project due to COVID restrictions. Did they say like that materials were an issue or anything like that? Because they went from like a larger project to a smaller project?
I was not part of the one-on-one conversations to be able to give you that level of specificity, but I do understand that the financing options that were available for the different type of construction, the lenders had varying levels of risk tolerance, and the original proposal was deemed too risky for those investors to want to invest into the project.
And if I'm understanding the address correctly, there are like buildings on that property right now, not buildings, but like houses.
Yes, there are. There are current houses. My understanding that it was a sibling group that owns some property, and they decided to consolidate and sell for this to be redeveloped.
So then the folks who are renting out those houses have been notified? Because I still see that they're utilized.
I would assume so. We do provide a public notice process as part of our preliminary site plan review where we mail to property owners and within the vicinity, as well as put signs on the property. And so my assumption is that the existing tenants know.
Okay. Those are all of the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Kwan.
Thanks. I'm curious if the conceptual drawing is the one that is on the first page of this presentation. Do we know if that is the conceptual drawing, or do we have a conceptual drawing?
Council member, what do you mean by conceptual? Are you wondering if this is what is going to be built or not?
Yes. Is that kind of representative of what's going to be built?
This is representative of what is going to be built.
Okay, I see. So I'm curious I'm guessing all of the glass stuff on the lower right, those are going to be the commercial spaces that are available, and on the left, possibly the garage or something?
Right, so this is where unfortunately, I don't have Dennis here who knows this project inside and out, so I will do my best to answer this.
Okay.
It's my understanding. Well, no, but it is my understanding that this is the commercial area along with some residence space for like workout room and others. And then my understanding in this area that there's a component of the tuck under parking to serve some of the commercial.
I see.
Spaces in this area here.
Oh,
I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure this is also a federal opportunity zone.
It is. Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, cool. Great. Yeah, I'm happy to
don't
see
know.
new development.
I would say I don't know if the builder is taking advantage of the opportunity zone.
Oh,
or
it
not.
could be an opportunity zone, but not. I wouldn't see why they wouldn't, but okay.
I don't. We don't in our provision in our world. We don't get that detailed into their financing.
Right. It's because it's not a city function, and so
Correct.
Right. I see. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's it. Happy to see more new developments coming in, especially new stores. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Eagle.
Thank you, Chen. It's multifamily affordable housing, or is it market rate for multifamily?
This is market rate. This is an 8-year tax exemption request for market rate housing.
And that I know you might not have even the answer of this, but what's the market rate of 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, most likely 2-bedroom, this apartment? How much is the market rate?
So you're asking what would the rent be for 2-bedroom?
Yes.
I'll have to get back to you on that. We have that data. I just can't come up with it off the top of my head. So if you're okay, I will let you know that in the next day or two.
Well, thank you, Chen. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Sitterly.
Thanks, Jen. Just to clarify, we're voting on this amendment because this builder has met all of the requirements, and there is literally no reason for us to vote against this, correct?
They have met, under staff size, they have met the criteria for approval for this agreement and this amendment.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Neguse.
Questions. As I mentioned, this was recommended for approval that meets all the requirements, and the project needed to change due to COVID and all the financing and all the things that came with that. So I'm ready to support this. Thank you.
Great. Okay. No questions or comments from me. Any other questions and comments? All right. Council, please unmute your mics while I read the motion on the table. Agenda Bill 5873, a resolution approving an amendment to the multifamily tax exemption agreement with Mayor Court LLC for the development of the Mayor Court apartments. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Jen.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into unfinished business. There's no unfinished business. Council comments. Let's change up the order a little bit. We've been doing it the same for a while. How about Councilmember Sitterly?
No comments tonight. Everybody have a nice evening.
Thank you. Okay. Councilmember Guzman.
No, just a reminder about the warming centers. And then also the United Way King County has a website that provides additional resources that includes heat assistance, food assistance. I know I've mentioned the tax assistance. So if folks want to go on there, if they're home and are afraid to turn on their heat because they may not be able to deal with the bill later on, there are support services. So go online and feel free to call United Way King County and they will help you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Eagle.
Thank you, Mayor Simpson. Two comments short. The sidewalks, we had sidewalks meeting. We got beautiful, good presentation from Director Will. The improvement and extension of the sidewalks in River Ridge Elementary School is coming, and they have very aggressive, actually, schedule. That's very good news. I had a lot of people asking me sidewalks. I'm very excited about that. Also, I have went to the senior advisory committee meeting on the 15th with Chairwoman Fikula Wood. I find out that CTAC senior program has resumed with some investment programs. There's a lot of good things going on in there. Senior Trevis, Art and Crafts, Meals, all of those good things. If you are senior and live in city of CTAC, please give them a call. They have a lot of good activities. And that's it. Thank you, Senior. Thank you, Mayor Simpson.
Thank you, Councilmember Eagle. Councilmember Kwan.
All right. So I have two things. One, I'm going to try to make it a point to mention the city's locking mailbox program if I hear from somebody that they have had mail stolen since the last city council meeting, and I have. So over the last 2 weeks, I heard from two people who said that they had their mail stolen. They live in SeaTac, and I let them know that they could get a locking mailbox from the city of SeaTac and not have their mail stolen. So if you don't already have one of these, please get a locking mailbox from the city. It's subsidized, and the city will come out and install it for you. You can get the details on the City of SeaTac website, seatacwa.gov. It's been a very successful program. And tax season is here. Mail theft is only going to increase. So there's that. The second one is it is getting cold. I know a lot of you have noticed. I've certainly noticed it's going to be cold again tonight, and it will be cold for the next couple of days. So please keep in mind that if you have a house or a condo or even apartment and there's an outdoor faucet, you got to cover that faucet, because otherwise if that thing freezes and the pipe bursts, it's going to cause a lot of other damage. So remember to cover your faucet tonight and stay warm. And if you can stay home, stay home. And if you have to go out, then be careful and drive safe. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Kwan. Deputy Mayor Neguse.
I have no comments, just wishing everyone a safe night. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't have a ton. I wanted to say that as a mayor and as a worker and as a human being, I will unequivocally and unapologetically stand with any workers organizing for dignity and respect in their workplace and for better working conditions. And that includes all of the Starbucks workers who are organizing, the concrete workers who are on strike, and anybody who needs better conditions in their workplace. But with that, have a good night. Thank you all. Meeting will adjourn at 7:07 p.m.